Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're drilling down into a belief system that, well, it pretty much dictates how you view every single challenge, every success, and every failure in your life.
We're talking about the fixed mindset versus the growth mindset.
Exactly. And these ideas we're exploring, they're not new. I mean, for centuries, people have debated whether human capacity was defined by things you can't change.
You know, like bumps on your skull, or later on, your genetic code.
Right. Or if we're fundamentally shaped by experience, education, and just plain effort. This whole question of whether ability is fixed or fluid, it's been holding people back for a long, long time.
And what's so fascinating here, I think, is that the very first attempt to measure intelligence, AIQ test, was invented by Alfred Binet.
Okay.
And he was actually a massive proponent of the belief in change. He wasn't trying to create some kind of permanent label for children.
That is a total reversal of how we think about it today. I mean,
Yeah.
I thought the whole point of an IQ test was to give you a static, permanent score.
It's quite the opposite. Binet designed his tests specifically to identify children who were struggling in school. His whole goal was intervention.
So to help them.
To help them, to put new educational programs in place that would get them back on track. He actively fought against what he called, and this is a quote, this brutal pessimism that intelligence was a fixed quantity.
Brutal pessimism. That's a strong phrase.
It is. He wrote that with practice, training, and above all, method, we managed to increase our attention, our memory, our judgment, and literally to become more intelligent than we were before.
So the father of the modern intelligence test was basically arguing for a growth mindset from day one. That changes everything.
It does, and if you connect this to modern science, you see exactly why he was right. I mean, today, neuroscience confirms it's never nature or nurture. It's a dynamic, constant cooperation.
So genes need input.
Genes require input from the environment to even work properly. It's why things like neuroplasticity exist. The key factor in achieving expertise isn't some fixed prior ability we're born with. It's what the research calls purposeful engagement.
Purposeful engagement. I like that. Okay.
Yeah.
That context really sets the stage perfectly. Our mission then is to figure out how we stop operating under Binet's brutal pessimism and start believing in development.
So let's define the two views.
Let's do it. The fixed mindset, or FM, is centered on the belief that ability, talent, intelligence, they're all basically fixed quantities. You have what you have.
And so your primary goal becomes proving that what you have is sufficient. The focus is constantly on measuring your ability right now.
And the growth mindset, or GM?
The GM just shifts the entire premise. The core belief there is that your true potential is unknown, maybe even unknowable.
Because everyone can change and grow.
Through application and experience, exactly. Success in that framework is all about stretching yourself and just becoming smarter than you were yesterday.
It's hard to really internalize that shift, though, especially when our culture is so obsessed with naturals and born talent.
Oh, absolutely. But the historical examples are just stunning reminders that this idea of innate talent is often, well, irrelevant. I mean, think of Charles Darwin or Leo Tolstoy. Both were considered ordinary, even mediocre, as children.
Really?
Or Ben Hogan, who people call one of the greatest technical golfers ever. He started out as completely uncoordinated as a kid. And the famous photographer Cindy Sherman, she actually failed her first photography course.
Wait, hold on. Ben Hogan was uncoordinated. That feels impossible. How does the research even explain a transformation like that?
It's that purposeful engagement, the passion, the toil, the years and years of practice. That's what sculpted his skill, not some pre-packaged physical gift.
Which explains why the two mindsets define success so differently.
Completely differently. For the fixed mindset, success is immediate perfection. It's validation. They'll define it as, it's when I don't make any mistakes. Or when something is easy for me, but other people struggle with it.
So it's about being better than others, effortlessly.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And the growth mindset just throws that whole idea of effortless perfection right out the window.
Yeah.
For them, success is defined by the process, by the challenge itself.
So they'd say something.
They measure it by saying, when it's really hard and I try really hard and I can do something I couldn't do before, the victory isn't in the absence of effort, it's in the difficulty they've overcome.
This contrast, it really comes to life when we look at how the mindsets handle setbacks. This is where it gets very personal for everyone listening. So let's take a common awful day.
Okay.
You get a C+ on a really critical midterm.
Yeah.
You find a parking ticket on your car, and then when you try to call your best friend to vent, they just brush you off with a terse, "I'm busy."
Right. For someone in a fixed mindset, those three things, a low grade, a fine, a slight snub, they don't just feel bad. They create this feeling of utter failure and paralysis.
They see it as a reflection of who they are.
They see it as a permanent personal definition. I am a failure. I am permanently unintelligent. I am the type of person who gets rejected. The events aren't separate, they're a judgment.
And the coping mechanisms that come after that
Are all designed for ego protection. It's complete avoidance, psychological withdrawal, refusing to study hard again, retreating into self-soothing behaviors. It's all about removing yourself from the possibility of being judged again. The real trauma isn't the C+, it's the feeling of being permanently labeled.
That paralysis makes so much sense, because if you believe that C+ defines your fixed ability forever, then trying harder only risks confirming that you've already maxed out your potential.
There's nowhere left to go but down. Whereas the growth mindset, facing the exact same bad day, they're upset, sure, but their reaction is fundamentally different. It's direct, it's action-oriented.
It's task-specific.
Exactly. The C+ doesn't mean I'm stupid, it means I need to study harder or maybe try a different method. The bad phone call means I should check in and see if my friend had a bad day. They just focus on the work.
We see the most extreme and tragic version of this fear of labeling in the story of Chef Bernard Loiseau. He was at the absolute pinnacle of his profession.
A 3-star rating from the Guide Michelin, the highest honor.
But when he lost a couple of points in a competitor's guide and there were rumors he might lose a star in the Michelin guide, he committed suicide.
Loiseau's reaction just illustrates the terrifying conclusion of the fixed mindset. I mean, he was a brilliant, energetic entrepreneur, but the idea of failure, of losing that perfect definition of his talent, it was so potent it drove him to the ultimate act of avoidance.
For the fixed mindset, a setback isn't feedback, it's a permanent verdict.
It's failure, has been, has peaked.
That tragedy highlights this total avoidance of failure, which brings us to a really counterintuitive point. How this fear makes the fixed mindset actively resist effort. Culturally, we love the story of the tortoise and the hare, but in the fixed mindset world, effort actually has a bad name.
It really does. In the FM, if you're seen as a natural or a genius, showing effort can actually reduce your status.
Because if you're truly talented, you shouldn't need to try hard.
Exactly. So showing effort suggests that you're deficient, that you're lacking that necessary innate genius. It's a huge psychological catch-22 that can improve without effort, but applying effort makes you look less talented.
The worst fear, then, is giving it your absolute all and failing anyway.
That's it. Because if you hold back, you always have the excuse, oh, I didn't really try my hardest. But if you say, I gave it my all and it wasn't good enough, there are no excuses left to protect your identity.
This fear is just perfectly captured by the story of the violinist Nadja Salemo-Sonnenberg. She debuted as a prodigy at age 10, but when she went to Juilliard, she actively resisted practice. She refused to change what she called her awful habits for years.
And that choice wasn't about laziness, it was self-protection. She was terrified of going all out and failing to be the best. She intentionally clung to the excuse that she could have been greater.
I could have been Yo-Yo Ma.
If she hadn't wasted her talent, that potential, unused and untested, became her defense mechanism. She prioritized her potential identity over her actual development.
That's the trap.
It's the whole trap. Now, contrast that with the growth mindset. For them, effort is constructive, it's necessary. There was a swimmer, Mary Williams, an elite athlete who struggled with confidence. She read the research on this and had an aha moment. She realized, my defects are things I can work on.
By focusing on the process, she took away the pressure.
She eliminated that paralyzing pressure of needing to be immediately perfect.
Okay, we've seen how this can cripple an individual or drive them to mastery. But what happens when this mindset infects an entire organization? Let's talk about mindsets in business. The research points directly at corporate environments like Enron.
Right, where this obsession with talent created what they call a devastating culture of genius.
And that culture was toxic.
Completely.
Yeah.
Because it was rooted entirely in the fixed mindset. Enron employees felt they had to look and act extraordinarily talented at all times. They avoided admitting they were deficient in some area, they avoided seeking help, and when their image was threatened, they would sooner lie than admit a mistake.
You can't learn in an environment like that. You can't self-correct.
And you certainly can't innovate when mistakes are career-ending judgments on your character. It's a staggering implication that prioritizing talent actually destroys it by fostering secrecy and dishonesty.
If you contrast that culture of genius with the leaders they identified in the research for the book Good to Great, you find the total opposite. Those leaders embodied the growth mindset. They were often self-effacing, and focused on brutal honesty.
They weren't focused on projecting talent, they were focused on truth.
Alan Wurtzel of Circuit City, for example, would constantly ask why, just honing in on questions until he understood the brutal facts of what was wrong with his business.
And they looked squarely at their own deficiencies. You even see this with Jack Welch at GE, a famously dominant leader. He took personal, explicit blame for a massive company fiasco, phoning colleagues to apologize and saying, "I blamed myself for the disaster." That's accountability, not ego protection.
And the organizational results just bear this out. Companies with a growth mindset, a culture of development, their employees showed far greater commitment, ownership, and trust.
And crucially, supervisors in those GM companies saw their team members as having far greater management potential than supervisors in the FM companies.
So the irony is just profound. The culture of genius at Enron was desperately looking around saying, where's all the talent?
Meanwhile, the talent was right there, but it wasn't flourishing because it was terrified to show effort or ask for guidance. The fixed mindset culture was essentially suffocating its own people.
Let's bring this conversation home a bit and talk about mindsets and relationships. This is where the FM myth of meant to be can cause the most pain.
Oh yes, the fixed mindset idealizes instant, perfect, and perpetual compatibility. The idea is if you have to work at a relationship, something is fundamentally seriously wrong with the pairing itself.
And that fixed idea is what leads to the core flaw in relationships.
It is, because when problems inevitably arise, the fixed mindset sees them as evidence of permanent character flaws in the partner. The spontaneous person you fell in love with is now an irresponsible airhead. The organized person is now a judgmental tyrant.
And that framework leads straight to anger and disgust, because if traits are fixed, the problem is insoluble.
Right, but how do you stop the growth mindset from becoming just delusional optimism? What if the problems really are serious, or a sign of true incompatibility? Is work harder always the answer?
That's a key question.
It is. The growth mindset isn't about ignoring serious problems. It's about acknowledging that choosing a partner means choosing a set of problems that you will both commit to navigating together. It requires work.
It's not they lived happily ever after.
It's they worked happily ever after. The process is the solution.
That makes a huge difference. Now, before we wrap up, we have to address the most critical point. Can these mindsets actually change? Because if they're fixed, this whole discussion is kind of useless.
They absolutely can change. Mindsets are a strong part of your personality, sure, but they are malleable. Often, the fixed mindset is just a persona that gets triggered by specific situations.
Like pressure or criticism or a big failure.
Exactly. And recognizing the trigger is the first step to change.
We have a perfect, really powerful illustration of this. It's the story of a graduate school applicant. She received a flat-out rejection, a classic trigger for that FM persona to declare you're permanently unworthy.
But instead of internalizing that judgment, she contacted the administrator at the school and said, "I don't want to dispute your decision. I just want to know, if I decide to apply again, what steps can I take to improve my application?"
That is an outrageously growth mindset move.
It is. She didn't seek validation. She sought information that would let her learn and improve.
And what happened?
The department was so impressed by her initiative, by her commitment to self-development, that they completely reconsidered her application, and they offered her admission. Her growth mindset behavior basically nullified the fixed mindset judgment.
So what does this all mean for you listening right now?
Yeah.
The growth mindset isn't just a feel-good philosophy. It is a practical, demonstrable framework for building resilience, learning faster, and finding genuine joy in effort.
And as you start to practice this, you'll probably encounter what the research calls the fixed mindset persona. This is that internal critic. It's the character that shows up when you feel judged, rejected, or permanently labeled.
They give them names, right? Like Scared Sally or Dumping Dan.
Yeah, Henrietta. This persona whispers the most limiting thoughts, often blowing a failure out of proportion. It's telling you, your failure doesn't define you, or you just don't have the ability to grasp this. Its whole mission is to protect your ego by telling you to freeze, retreat, or blame someone else.
So the final provocative thought for you to consider today is this. Think about the situations that most reliably trigger that inner critic for you. Is it competition with a peer? Is it getting unexpected, harsh feedback? Is it failing in front of an audience? Where do you feel judged or permanently labeled? What name would you give that inner persona that tells you to freeze up, to retreat, or to give up? By identifying and naming that character, whether it's Gertrude, Sugar Daddy, or Dumping Dan, you gain the critical clarity to observe as limiting advice and then deliberately choose to engage your own growth mindset, to take the challenge, learn from the failure, and continue your effort.